Joining us on the Celebrity Couch today, we have...
Tony McDonald.
So, Tony, I hear that you run a record company, PlasticGroove, more maybe music management than record company?
Actually, now I've started doing music management. It's probably going to be the other way around because I've realised music management consumes so much of my time and it's really intense that, I'll probably, some of the bands I take on in the future will be more just sort of publishing and try and help them with some of the marketing to get them into the limelight.
So apart from PlasticGroove, why don't you tell us what you do for a normal job?
For a normal job, I do IT business consultancy. Currently working at the Department of Treasury and Weta Workshop. So it's a bit of a mix, part-time at both, which is pretty cool. Sort of doing business analysis, project management, systems engineering, you name it. I just do everything really, which is pretty boring compared to music.
So I heard through the grapevine that PlasticGroove didn't originate as your company, it originated as a band, and you've been in a band. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when I was younger, a lot younger, 17, 18, I was in bands in the UK, and we weren't successful. Unfortunately, the rest of the band took too many drugs. However, we went to London and did demos for Virgin and Warner Brothers. It looks like we were going to be the next big thing, but management came in and drugs took over, so that wasn't too good. But when I came to New Zealand, I was a drummer back then, so a drummer in the band, and I thought I'd actually try and dabble in a bit of everything. So I started to play piano and did the bass and drums and singing. The only bit I didn't do was guitar. So I set up PlasticGroove really as an outlet for my creativeness, and really enjoyed that. But then I could see my son had got some musical talent, so I thought I'll actually push the PlasticGroove as far as I can to learn about marketing, getting songs onto Spotify, record labels, all that sort of thing. So that's sort of how PlasticGroove sort of turned into PlasticGroove HQ.
And when you're mentioning your son, obviously we're talking about Rory here.
Yeah.
So what's it like managing Rory? He's in Bingo Fighter and Lucifer Gun.
Managing Rory at the beginning was pretty difficult. I'm dad, so we had band meetings, and it was quite hard for me not to look at him as my son and him not to look at me as the father. But as we've gone on, we have band meetings, we have an agenda, and we do actually keep the social thing away from the bands, which is working really well. Yeah. So I go on holiday with my son, just me and him, and we've gone to see bands and things. And when we go on holiday, we said no music talk, no Lucifer Gun talk, so we keep that separate, which is cool.
So what's really involved in running a promotions company?
One of the hard things is actually keeping all of the guys on track in the band and keeping them focused. And things change. You lose a drummer, or something along the way happens, and you have to sort of start again. But what I try and do is create a package. So we'll release a single here, and then we'll have a video for the single, and then we'll do an EP or an album or a tour. Trying to just stick to all of them deadlines. But it's just all the background work of trying to maintain contacts, talk to radio stations and magazines, and it's just social media. Just keeping everything on top of everything all the time is a lot of effort. Yeah.
So Tony, what's been the most iconic event so far?
Crikey. Oh, it's probably a series of events, I'd say. It was probably the hardest thing I've ever done, and it was for my son's band, Lucifer Gun, and that was organising the tour of New Zealand. I thought I knew how. I'm a project manager sometimes in IT. I thought it'd be just project managing. There's so much more to it. There's not just organising the travel and the accommodation, but making sure you've got everything. All the guys have got the guitars and spare strings and drumsticks and all the rest of it. But then all the venues have got different requirements, so have you got a PA? Have you got guitar amps? And have you got a sound engineer? Lighting? There's just so much involved that in the future I'll be getting some help, I think, for that side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think last I heard you were planning another sort of big tour, perhaps maybe over in Australia and whatnot, and I suppose from what you've learned with that New Zealand tour, it's taught you a lot in regards to being prepared, I suppose, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's taught me a lot, and I had started planning the tour in Australia. That was supposed to be in February, but unfortunately we lost the drummer, so that's been pushed back now, which is fine. But yeah, in Australia, it's got even more added challenges in the fact that we either take the equipment over, which is expensive, or we have to hire equipment, or we team up with another band over there to do the support, or play with us, and we share their equipment. But yeah, I've actually got a template now of what I need to do for each gig, and so hopefully run a lot smoother. And I have got some help, so yeah, should be good.
Talking about PlasticGroove HQ, let's say tomorrow I decided to get into a band, and God forbid that ever happen. And
Don't do it.
and it's a rock band, and it sounds good, and you want to recruit us, so to speak. How does that all work? How does that all formulate?
Well, it's a really good question, actually, and I think there's a lot of skepticism out there as well about what I'm trying to do, because I have met a few bands and I've offered them a contract, and it's a very loose contract, because I'm not actually in it for myself. I actually want to promote the bands and get the bands to the next level. So in the contract, for example, if Sony come in and say, we want to take Lucifer Gunn, I'd say, great, nice, my job's been done, I've passed it on. But I think so. But I try and create contracts so that the bands have actually got an element of professionalism about them, and so that they're not really surprised when Sony does come in and say, here's a contract, sign, and they're signing their life away. Does that answer your question? I can't remember what your question was now.
It was more like, how do you formulate getting a band together and all that kind of stuff in regards to being managed? And you spoke about contracts and all that kind of stuff. So pretty much, and you've explained what happens after the contract purpose and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
No, but actually, no. I think the most important thing is that I do listen to the music to make sure it fits in with what I'm trying to create. But I also ask the bands that potentially are going to come on, what are their goals, what are their aspirations? Because if they just say, I want to be famous, then that for me is not a good reason. I want to see bands that are doing it for the fun of doing it, and if it turns out to be a career, then that's fantastic. Yeah.
So you pretty much already have, but if you were to give a sales pitch on behalf of PlasticGroove, what would it sound like?
There's no sales pitch because I'm not selling anything. It's just for the love of the music. But if you're really serious about music and you want to get to that next level, I'm more than happy to help. Yeah, and even if you don't actually sign that contract, I'm always looking for bands that can do support acts or festivals, whatever it may be. I'm here to help.
Yeah, funny that you mention festivals, because don't you have a bit of an idea in the back of your mind at the moment that you're hoping to progress to in the next couple of years?
Absolutely, yeah, and that is to have a PlasticGroove festival. And to have a PlasticGroove festival, I need more bands on the PlasticGroove label. And one of the big reasons for the label is to try and get a collective together. So, for example, if we had, we've already got Bingo Fighter and Lucifer Gunn and Twisted Zips hopefully joining soon. But if you've got a lot of other bands, say like, Curly's Jewels and Pale Lady, and we all actually were together on the same label, it gives us a little bit more clout in the industry, and people will actually hopefully take notice that PlasticGroove's got some good bands on there.
You moved from England to New Zealand. Was that for the music, or was it completely something else?
No, definitely not for music. I love the English music scene. I think it's really cool. I'm not as keen on the New Zealand music scene, and I know that probably offend a lot of people, but it's yeah. But I love the alternative rock and the punk and stuff. The reason I moved here was my family. Actually, I was traveling a lot, working away from home, and not seeing the family as much as I should have. And so it was a lifestyle choice. But funnily enough, I wanted to move here when I was 18, when I met my wife, Andrea, and she said, no, we're not moving. So it took me, 15 years of wearing her down, and eventually we're here, and she loves it as well.
So it'd be fair to say that the change of scenery has been a positive outcome?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Kiwis are cool.
Thank you.
Most of them.
Oh. I'll take that whatever way I want. So I recently read an article about selling, what was it, like 1,500 craft bottle beers or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you wanna explain that?
So the room we're in now was my pinball party room. I had 5 pinball machines, and it was set up for kids' parties, so they can come and experience sort of old school pinball, and that was cool. We did a few parties, but to make it look cool on the wall, I had between 1,500 and 2,000 beer bottles on the walls, and they were all different as well. No, not one of them was the same, and unfortunately, when I turned into a studio, the acoustics wouldn't have been good with the beer bottles. It would have all resonated round, so I decided to sell it on Trade Me. And it got quite a lot of attention. I got interviewed on radio about it, and it was in Stuff and what have you. But ultimately, I wanted to, it wasn't about selling, it was about giving them to someone who appreciated the collection, because they were from all around the world, America and Mexico, etc. And luckily, I found a guy who actually runs New Zealand hops, who supplies all the hops to New Zealand and exports, and he bought them, and he's actually building his own craft sort of beer bar, and they're going to be displayed in his barn there. So lucky for him.
So getting them from the States and whatnot, did you just like go on holiday and shove them in your suitcase and bring them home with you? Or?
Yeah, that's absolutely what I did. Wherever I went, I drank the beer, because I drank all the beers, I drank the beer and saved the bottle and put it in my suitcase. Yeah. Funny story, when I was in Cambodia on holiday, we'd been to Singapore and then to Cambodia, me and my wife, and I've been collecting the beer bottles along the way. And I put them all on the side, all of the different bottles, and I kept adding to them. And the cleaner must have thought, what's happening? What's with this strange selection of beers and collection of beers? So the last day, as we were going to check out, I asked my wife what she'd done with all the beer bottles. She'd not touched them. Turns out the cleaner had put them all in the bin. So I did lose maybe 15, 20 bottles. Yeah.
Well, with that in mind, I feel like a beer now, so I'm going to wrap up this interview. Cheers. So is there any final words that you'd like to add before we conclude?
No, just music rules. Just I love music. Everyone just keep playing it. And if you want me to help you get to the next level, get in touch. mgmt@plasticgroove.co.nz. And if you would like to follow Plastic Groove, we're on Facebook, so it's Plastic Groove HQ. You search for that on Facebook, and I'd love if you could like the page and share it with your friends.
Now, if you want to see me take Season 3 on the road, potentially in Auckland, where I have some awesome contacts, then jump over to our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/entertaininginterviews. And around that page, you will see a link on how you can support this channel to be able to make that happen. Hopefully you enjoyed Entertaining Interview Season 2. We had a whole ball of fun filming it. Once again, huge shout out to Tony McDonald from PlasticGroove for the venue and also for the audio engineering, one of our major sponsors, and our other major sponsor, Tim Simpson from Nitro Film, for sponsoring us with the gear. So, like I said, jump over to our Facebook page, check it out, jump in and help us out, take Season 3 on the road, and hopefully we'll be seeing you guys again very soon.